to caring for you.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome, K-Man, to another edition of Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, of course. Yes, welcome here to Straight Talk with your two top favorite hosts, Austin Harris and myself, Ellio Solomon. How are you today, Mr. Harris?
I'm well, Mr. Solomon. Happy Friday.
Oh, yeah, it is Friday.
It is Friday.
I woke up this morning saying to myself, what day is it? I don't seem to know what day it is anymore.
I tell you, sometimes, and, gratefully, knock on wood, the weeks that we're the busiest, that happens quite often.
Yeah, that could have something to do with it, absolutely.
That might be. I noticed you weren't in here at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so I thought to myself, he must be having a busy Friday.
I had a board meeting today, amongst other things, so yeah.
All right.
I got in a kind of a normal type of time. Not too early today.
All right, fair enough. Well, it is Friday, so you are forgiven. It is Friday. Happy
Forgiving
Friday to our
Friday.
listening audience. Welcome to another edition of another edition of Straight Talk, brought to you here on Bobo 103.1 and simulcast over YouTube, Instagram, and in today's news.
Hold on.
This is a buzzer moment, buddy. In today's news, we are thrilled to say to the listening audience, we are now finally streaming live over our own Facebook page.
Say it again.
You can log on to Straight Talk Radio Show on Facebook.com.
You lie.
And you will see us, our smiling, beaming, happy Friday faces streaming live over our own page. Definitely.
Yeah, we did it.
So that is your Friday good news. You can see that we can barely contain the
60 days. We made it.
excitement. We made it. 60 days. 60 days in the county jail, as the country song also adds. It feels like we were in jail. My God, Meta kept us prisoner for a while.
I have no idea what they're doing.
That's all right. Well, if you're listening, Meta, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. 61 days now, April 11th, and that makes February, March, April, 2 months. You and I have had Straight Talk on the air.
Yesterday was 2 months.
Yesterday was our 2-month anniversary.
That's the 60-day thing.
It is.
We made it.
We did. And again, we could not have made it this far without you, the listening audience, but particularly our followers on social media, whether it be Facebook. And of course, that was first to get us 100 followers. Mm-hmm. We got that 100 followers within the first month.
Super.
But then, of course, Meta moved the goalpost on us and said, well, you got your 100 followers. Now you need to be here in 60 days.
But you need a few more things, buddy.
A few more things left on the list. So apparently we've checked off all of those things, and we're happy to announce that we're streaming live over our own Facebook page. That's definitely a sense of accomplishment. Thank God for small mercies.
Oh, no, absolutely. It is good to be here. It's good to be up on our own Facebook page. And, of course, that said, we want to thank ACT as well, Cruise Tourism, for broadcasting us on their Facebook page while we were kind of limping along on one leg.
Absolutely. We cannot forget those who have collaborated with us to spread the word, and certainly grateful to the ACT Cruise Tourism page for allowing us to piggyback, as the case may be.
That's the right term.
On their page, whilst we waited on Meta's approval for our own page. We're grateful to ACT. I just want to, again, a great opportunity to shout out some of the sponsors that, continue to stick with us as we celebrate our second-month anniversary. Obviously, NetClues, our social media partners, the ones who largely keep us updated over multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. Big shout-out to NetClues. Rocky's Jewelers, our streaming partner, allowing us to present the YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook feeds to you. Grateful to you, Rockies. Thank you so very much. Certainly, Monster Media, from the beginning, our original day ones that have been with us and still remain with us and making this show Straight Talk possible. Just want to say to you, we got nothing but love for you.
Agreed.
Agreed, indeed.
Kenny knows that already.
Well, it doesn't hurt to say it again, from time to time.
Yeah,
as you say, give them flowers whilst they're still with us.
Something great about public love, though, Hey, love you, my brother.
Love you, that's right. Little shout out on the radio dial.
You don't mind you have the big mic.
That's
Say
right.
something, no.
Say something, no. The
Hey, you
phone
do that
lines are
pretty
open. I have a lot of practice, but now you have the buzzer.
No, but you sound just like the buzzer.
Well,
I didn't need the buzzer after all.
No, the buzzer is definitely needed. Definitely needed. And it's funny, ever since you brought that buzzer in the studio, now my mind is running, and I tell everyone who travels abroad, say, listen, if you come across cool buzzers that we can have desktop, I want them. I want to bring them in the studio. I want to present them to Ellio with a bow so he can have his own sound effects corner.
As long as it's not that one that you sent to me on the video.
Oh, my God, but isn't that the best one, though? Oh, my God, I would love that one.
It's just one that's going to be totally rejected by Alt-Frag.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
That takes us a little bit close to the line as to what's appropriate and what's not.
Not everybody's saying, what kind of a buzzer is that?
What kind of? Listen, it's a colloquial phrase that we use in the Caribbean, maybe not necessarily in the Cayman Islands. Well, we use it here. Didn't originate from here, but, it's a very familiar phrase.
Yeah. That's not one that,
Yeah, not one that we can.
It's not G-rated at all.
Not at all.
What
at all. Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Okay.
That's the one.
Stop it.
That's the one, where the blood flows somehow.
Like you just start. Yo, cut it out.
Cut it out. None of that. Well, 745-2626 is the phone line. You can be a part of this Friday's open mic conversation with Ellio and I. No specifically set strategy. Well, actually, we do have, as always, we have a plan.
Yeah.
But we're willing to be flexible with that plan to hear from you, members of the listening audience. So if you've got some issues,
we know it's Friday and everybody out just like happy hour time and
take it easy.
Take it easy, man. Yeah, say, Austin, we hear you.
Hear him, man.
But can't make it to the phone, blood.
Can't make it right now, blood. Can't make it, blood. The sky, the rain, they falling, the window, them up. And you know how it go, right? Zin.
Yo, I want you to say, yo, we here, Can't make it to the phone right now.
Make it to the phone right now, Zin. Hail up to all our Jamaican brothers and sisters out there. We got nothing but love for you, believe me.
So we could add that to it, Listen, we can't make it, but right after the referendum.
Right after the referendum, we'll soon be with you.
We're coming in there in the
Live
studio.
and direct and public.
Pass the dutchie on the left.
That's the one. Speaking of which, this is a good opportunity to remind our listening audience, while we have no guest in studios today, we have another
Miracle
fantastic
Monday.
week lined up for you next week. Starting on Monday, we are going to be engaging with the help of our guests, Pastor Alson Ebanks and our very good friend Mario Ebanks, the Ebanks Wonder Twins, will be our guest in studio on Monday.
I just realized that.
You just realized.
Ebanks squared.
Ebanks Squared. I like it.
Yeah,
That's
man.
the next promo. Ebanks Squared, only on Straight Talk Cubed. Anyway, so the Ebanks duo, or
There goes
Ebanks
that my
Squared, will be our guest in studios, and they will be taking on the 3 referendum questions in one relevant conversation. And the only place you're going to hear it is right here on Straight Talk. That conversation kicks off at 5 o'clock at our primetime hour on Monday. You definitely want to be here for that. Again, we're going to examine all 3 of the questions, and we're going to hear some of the views coming from our guests. And of course, as always, hoping the listening audience will participate and encouraging listener participation and engagement. On Tuesday, we haven't quite settled on a name either. Super Tuesday, Transparent Tuesday,
Truthful Tuesday.
Truthful Tuesdays. We will have, of course, West Bay North candidate Jordan Rivers once again back in studios. Listen, the crowds are loving this young man. I mean, they really are. Listening audience, the feedback has been promising. He is always
Big
excited.
things going to happen on the 3rd of April then.
big things are going on in the District of West. But the Republic will see some fireworks on April 30th.
Changes.
That's right. He says, speak it into the universe and it shall be made real.
Changes.
We changes for real, man. Change long overdue. Plenty long overdue. So we're hoping for some exciting things. So, yes, Tuesday we got Jordan Rivers in studios. And then on Wednesday, we are going back to the constituency of Red Bay.
All right.
Last night we had a fantastic conversation with CINP candidate Don Thomas, also from Red Bay. Well, on Wednesday, we will have Leon Gould.
Good as gold. Good as gold.
Good as gold. The guy with that really fantastic beard. I love that. I mean, it's always perfect. And as a guy who once had a beard,
like he spent some time on it.
But he spent some time on it. You can see that's takes some detailed work. But anyway, he's also got some exciting political priorities and viewpoints that we're going to hear about for the first time here on Straight Talk. And we encourage you to tune in to those conversations. But a reminder, those of you who already know, but again, you might be your first time listening to the program. You can listen to Straight Talk every weekday evening from 4:30 until 6:30 right here on Bobo 103.1 FM.
So speaking about the beard, maybe it's a sign that he's a man that knows how to get it done properly.
Perhaps.
That he's sharp.
Yeah, man. Not everybody can carry off a beard, I've noticed that. I mean, I'm one of them. I like it, but it has to be that sort of Miami Vice 5 o'clock shadow beard, because as it gets longer, it gets annoying. I can feel it.
I can't even sleep.
No, man. I'm the same way. It starts to annoy me, and then it has to go.
No, completely agree.
But I like this look,
That's why I couldn't do the Pirates Week thing.
You couldn't do the Pirates Week thing?
No, sir. Can't grow the beard blood.
Well, that's okay. You can go to 5 o'clock shadow, make it work.
That I can handle.
There you go. That's a pirate, unfinished, not always civilized.
5 o'clock pirate.
Little bit of a scruff,
5 o'clock pirate.
5 o'clock pirate.
All right, brother, we'll take it. We'll take it
indeed. So we want to encourage the folks to be a part of next week. Next week is shaping up to be a very busy week. But as always, there's still a few days available. So if you are specifically, as we wind down the time to April 30th and the general elections, if you are a political candidate who has still not been featured here on our program, well, the opportunity is still available to you, but for a short time. All you have to do is email us at host@straighttalk.ky, or you can send us a quick WhatsApp message to 928-2562, and we will do our very best.
Forget I didn't send it all my links, man.
It's all right. You can do that now. Matter of fact, you can do that now whilst I kick off what will be the first of our discussion topics this evening. We hinted at it yesterday. There was, I thought, an incredibly valuable article that appeared in the Compass this week with the title, Survey Results, Women Employees in Cayman Valued Less Than Men. And let me just share a few snippets, well, more than a few. It says, a newly released survey by Gender Equality Cayman has found persistent gender disparities in the Cayman Islands workforce, as well as notable challenges for Caymanians compared to work permit holders. Women who were surveyed were more likely to report sexual harassment than men, as well as discrimination in the workplace. Meanwhile, men were more likely to report receiving promotions and feeling greater confidence in seeking pay rises. A report of the survey concluded from these results that women are valued less and receive less recognition in their workplace roles compared to men. The survey goes on to point out that both Caymanian and women respondents, so every Caymanian, male and female, and then, of course, women respondents, were more likely to report lower salaries and were less likely to enjoy flexible working arrangements. The survey found there is both a pay disparity in terms of gender, as well as a bias towards paying a premium for non-local knowledge, skills, and expertise. On the transverse side of it, work permit holders were 7% more likely to earn at least $250,000 a year, while Caymanians were 12% more likely to earn between $30,000 and $50,000 per year. That's a huge margin.
Why? Who would even think of such a disparity?
I don't know, but very clearly.
Give us the numbers again, Mr. Harris. I don't think people heard it.
Were 7% more
Work permit
likely
holders
to earn at least $250,000.
250,000. He said.
Right? Was that $250,000?
$250,000.
While Caymanians were 12% more
While
likely
Caymanians, what?
to earn between $30,000 and $50,000. Yeah, that's
what a blow.
major. That's a huge blow. Somehow we forgot to tell industry who's in charge in this country.
Hey.
Apparently.
Hey, just weaken you in the knees.
Boy, that's a shot. I mean, that one you just stop right there and go, wow, hang on a second. Let me catch my breath. Whew, that one hurt. Similarly, the article goes on.
I think that would kind of amount to about, what, 1/5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is definitely amounts to a kick in the proverbial you-know-what. Anyway, 6% more men than women earn between $150,000 and $250,000, while 8% more women than men earn between $30,000 and $50,000. Again, huge disparities on the salary scale. It's no surprise that work permit holders often report better experiences regarding promotions and workplace inclusion compared to local Caymanians. Now, there's a saying that goes, we talk about it all the time. When we say it, people don't often hear it and get the message.
Just complaining.
But somebody else says it, as the survey does, and now it becomes earth-shattering, groundbreaking, look at this problem type of news. Anyway, we are there again today, and while certainly I think you ask any local at any point in time, if you have any local friends, you will know the locals have believed these disparities have existed in the workforce for a long time. But nobody's actually taking the time to do a formal survey. Again, thank you to Gender Equality Cayman for taking the time to do so. And in so doing, what we have known for a long time is now perhaps considered front page news. Anyway, the survey goes on. The survey revealed a continuing gender divide at the highest levels of company leadership, with a 7% gap in favor of men holding the director or high-ranking executive levels and partner-level positions. There were also 9% more women in administrator positions and 7% more women in assistant positions. 2/3 of respondents indicated that the most senior person in their organization was a man. So it still seems like it's very much a man's world. But I get the sneaky suspicion the survey didn't take into context the trends. I mean, I think if we looked at the number of women, I'm just assuming here, and I'm basing it entirely on the number of women who are getting, continuing education, professional designations, or who are graduating specifically from places like the University College of the Cayman Islands. There have been for some time more women than men in these college and further education courses. Bravo to the ladies. Guys, we really got to step up. But again, I suppose the guys on the other end says, yeah, we're not graduating quite as many, but somehow or the other, we're still in charge of the majority, or at least 2/3 of all the executive positions. So there, na type thing. Listen, this is not my opinion. I'm just, expressing a viewpoint generally. Generally. Now, the survey was conducted at the end of 2023 and comprised of 841 respondents, all of whom were living and working in the Cayman Islands. Well, I would hope so. Almost all of the respondents, or 97%, were currently working, and 70% had been in Cayman for more than 5 years. Caymanians represented the largest group of respondents at 40%, followed by work permit holders taking up 34%, Cayman status holders at 11%, and permanent residents taking up the final 10%. Women made up the majority of respondents at 72%, compared to men at 26%. Even there, the ladies are leading the way over men. What's wrong, guys? You want to participate in a survey?
Women will fill out the forms.
Come on, guys. We got to step up, with the remaining 2% identifying as non-binary or preferring not to answer. This is a group that aren't sure whether they're a man or a woman.
Okay.
They're in that nebulous
special category
of themselves, which it still surprises me that this non-binary nonsense has found its way to our shores. I know it prevails in the rest of the Western world, who have plumb gone and lost their mind, but I was surprised that it's gotten here. But then again, we seem to adopt everything foreign, so why should I be surprised, right? But yeah, so that's the
How would
survey.
you sexual assault a non-binary? How does that happen?
I really don't. I really don't know. You know,
This is all very
it'll
confusing.
be bestiality at that point, and that takes us into an entirely different, again, not very tasteful range. But again, what can I tell you? You're not a man, you're not a woman, so you're something. Anyway,
Yeah, but
you're
then again,
non-binary.
on the jobs though, again,
I don't get it.
isn't it just natural that men gravitate towards certain jobs and women gravitate towards others? I mean, as a general rule.
As a general rule, one would think so. But again, I've seen, I mean, well, let me preface it. In the 4 years when I had shared responsibility for immigration and labor,
Mm-hmm.
we saw that same comment being actually proved to be a myth. Because not only you're seeing more and more women enter fields like construction, which traditionally have been dominated by men, but we're seeing those numbers changing. And certainly in the, white collar realm, whether it be at the mid-level or senior management, we're seeing more and more women, enter those areas, which are all very good. I think that's very encouraging, and it reflects, obviously, the, again, as I said before, the educational improvements. More women are, engaged in.
But I think more women are entering in. Let's just use construction.
Yeah.
More women are probably entering into construction, but isn't that a societal thing? Isn't it a matter that they're being kind of pushed in that direction?
Right.
I mean, correct with me here.
Somebody just sent us something over WhatsApp that I shared on your WhatsApp. I'm just grateful that it's, just for us. But it deals with those persons in the non-binary section.
Okay.
So
yeah.
you grab your phone.
I don't even know if I want to look at it.
You
Right
definitely want to look at it.
I definitely want to look at it.
definitely want to look at it. But this will be one of those moments where you kind of throw up a little bit in your mouth.
Okay.
But there it is.
Let me see. Hold on.
Peekaboo.
Hold on. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, there you go. And thank you to the sender for sharing that little bit of humor.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the world we live in now, dude.
Oh, geez.
That's the world we live in today.
It's like a box of chocolate. You never know what
You
you're
never
gonna
know
get.
what you're going to get. You're right. It looks like a duck. It walks like a duck. But it's not a
It wasn't
duck.
a duck.
It's a platypus. Makes no
So
sense. at all.
back on the more
Serious?
serious conversation.
Yes.
I mean, like, isn't it a society thing? Like, don't you find that, you're getting all of the, we need more women in politics. We need more women in this. And isn't that a big encouraging factor? Because just the idea, is it kind of normal? Maybe you should have this discussion. You say something outrageous. But is it normal for a woman to say, I can't wait to go over there and shovel some sand and cement and lay 36-pound blocks?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see most women want to gravitate there.
Right.
Whereas boys, from the time you're young, like, look at that truck. I want to drive a dump
Be a
truck too.
fireman. I want to be a police officer.
Right.
I want to drive a big 18-wheeler.
Yeah, and the thing is that we kind of have almost a society too that kind of looks down on that. Oh, that's not, there should be this. It's normal. And what's wrong with normal? What's not wrong with normal? I don't see anything wrong with normal.
Yeah.
And I find, for example, that, like, let's just say administration. Most women are very good at administration. Is there something wrong with administration?
No, not at all.
They're just very good at it.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing I abhor more than having to fill out a form. If I made $100, I'd pay $75 so you can fill out the form. I just don't want to fill that form.
Good for me. All right. It's like me at Christmas time. I'm a terrible present wrapper.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Where I can think of some lovely ladies. Oh, a form needs to be filled out.
Oh, give that to me, you.
I am the form master.
I'm all over that.
I'm all over that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. Listen, I'm encouraged, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm encouraged to see greater women participating in the workforce. I think, more power to it. I'm even more encouraged that there are more and more women rising to the top, breaking through that glass ceiling. What I'm not encouraged about is the salary disparity that is very, very clear.
Well, if you're doing the job,
when
you
you
should
look
get
at
paid.
when you look at the survey, and again, it's been stated time and time before. Foreigners, sorry for saying so, but you dominate the top jobs in this country, and those top jobs are reflective of the top salaries. But the disparity from $250,000 for your 7% or your top 7% of work permit holders to a maximum of $50,000 for the same, well, they don't say same, they don't give us a context of all of this, but on average, Caymanians are earning a maximum of $50,000 a year. Foreigners are earning a maximum of $252,000 a year.
And again, this is back to my favorite topic for the month.
Jobs for Caymanians only?
No.
Oh.
This is part of why I can keep telling you that there's people in the country making lots of money, and they say, I don't want cruise tourism because it's just blocking the traffic on my way to my ivory financial tower to make money.
That's right.
Where there's a Caymanian on the lower end that says...
to my gated community that keeps out the riffraff.
Correct. And therefore, we can now understand again why the Caymanian is sitting there saying, we need some cruise. We need something. We need something to keep making more money.
Yes.
While some have absolutely no need.
Indeed. Well, 745-2626 is the number. If you're not already in happy hour mood, and I get it, it's Friday, it's raining, and why be serious? But for those of you who might want to be serious, you're on your way home and you are as shocked, well, shocked is a subjective term, disappointed is a better word in these survey results, but not shocked or surprised. No shock of surprisation, as one stalwart Cayman used to say. We'd love to hear from you. 745-2626 on the studio line, or of course you can reach out to us on our version of the 1-800 line, which is our WhatsApp line, by dialing 928-2562, and from there leaving us either a WhatsApp audio note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. But we do have to pause at, what time is it, 4:58 on the studio, check in with the BBC News. But don't change that dial. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here on Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo. The BBC is the world's most trusted news source. And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to talk shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman, on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. A U.S. immigration judge has ruled that a student who led pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University in New York last year can be deported. Mahmoud Khalil, who's of Palestinian descent and has permanent residency status in the U.S., was detained more than a month ago. The Trump administration claimed his activism was anti-Semitic, something he denies. Will Creeley, the legal director of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, told the BBC the ruling was worrying.
It's deeply troubling. Essentially, the government is arguing that holding a disfavored opinion without any evidence of lawlessness or criminality is enough to get a lawful permanent resident detained and deported. That's shocking. The chill will be palpable. It already is.
The Israeli army says it has killed 2 Palestinian gunmen during an exchange of fire in the southern part of Gaza. The clash could mark a return to face-to-face fighting after Israel ended the ceasefire with Hamas almost a month ago. The IDF says it came under fire from what it called terrorists and that one of its soldiers sustained moderate injuries. Its statement said a third individual from the Hamas cell was also killed after being targeted by a drone. The White House has insisted that President Trump's tariffs will make the United States richer, despite the falling value of the US dollar. The currency dropped to a 3-year low against the euro on Friday. Michelle Fleury reports from New York.
The US dollar continued to lose ground against major currencies on Friday as uncertainty surrounding the American economy deepened amid an escalating trade war with China. Investors are beginning to question the dollar's traditional role as a safe haven during times of global instability. At the same time, gold prices surged to a record high, with traders flocking to what they see as a more stable investment amid ongoing stock market turbulence.
The US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has held talks with President Putin in St. Petersburg about a resolution to Russia's war in Ukraine. There's no word so far of progress in the meeting, which comes as US-led attempts to get Russia and Ukraine to agree a ceasefire have stalled. Ahead of the meeting, the Kremlin warned not to expect any breakthroughs. Earlier, a meeting of Ukraine's allies in Brussels pledged another $24 billion in military aid for Kyiv. Britain's Defence Minister John Healey said it was crucial to continue bolstering Kyiv's defences.
We're sending a signal to Putin, but we're also sending a message to Ukraine. And we are saying to Ukraine, we stand with you in the fight, and we will stand with you in the peace.
BBC News. The UN's humanitarian agency OCHA has announced it will lose more than 2,000 staff in what it called a wave of brutal cuts. The organisation is facing a funding gap of almost $60 million and says it will have to reduce its presence in countries including Nigeria, Pakistan and Iraq. Reports from Sudan say dozens of people have been killed during an attack by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces on the city of Al Fasher and a nearby camp. Our Africa regional editor Will Ross reports.
The Rapid Support Forces were recently pushed out of the capital Khartoum by the Sudanese army, but now the paramilitary group is intensifying its effort to seize El Fasher and complete its takeover of the entire Darfur region. A volunteer aid group says more than 30 people were killed in the city as the RSF attacked from 3 different directions. It's also reporting that 25 people died in the nearby Zamzam camp, where there's a famine because of the 2-year war. Witnesses said RSF combat vehicles entered the camp under cover of heavy gunfire. Throughout the conflict, there have been many reports of RSF atrocities against civilians in Darfur.
The Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has promised an immediate delivery of water to Texas to make up for a shortfall owed under a long-standing treaty. Mexico's failure to keep up with its water deliveries has sparked a diplomatic row with the United States. On Thursday, Donald Trump threatened additional tariffs. The state-owned Spanish broadcaster has called for a debate over Israel's participation in this year's Eurovision Song Contest because of concerns expressed by some Spanish organisations over the war in Gaza. RTVE has sent a letter to the European Broadcasting Union requesting a discussion on the participation of Israel's public broadcaster. BBC News.
Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube, Instagram, and as of today, for the first time, our own Straight Talk Radio Show Facebook page, streaming live over all of the major social media platforms. all for your benefit to reach you where you are most comfortable. 745-2626 is the number, or you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp number, 928-2562. And from there, you can either share a WhatsApp audio note or, of course, the traditional WhatsApp text message. Ellio and I, of course, were chatting about the survey as it relates to the Gender Equality Cayman gender disparities in the Cayman Islands workplace. And we listed, of course, a number of the highlights from there, but none that really stood out more than the pay scale disparity. Again, for us, not necessarily shocking, certainly not a surprise, but there is some justification to these numbers following, of course, the various comments we've, said in the past. Just for those of you who may have missed it and are just tuning in, according to the survey, work permit holders were 7% more likely to earn at least $250,000, presumably that means a year, while Caymanians were 12% more likely to earn between $30,000 and $50,000 per year. Similarly, 6% more men than women earn between $150,000 and $250,000 a year, while 8% more women than men earn between $30,000 to $50,000 per year. Regardless, any way you shake it, either male, female, or non-binary, those salary scales are rather significant, the disparities between the two. And I think it highlights some of the frustrations that Caymanians continue to express in the labor force today. If you have a comment or an opinion or a thought on this report, 745-2626 is your number. And before I move off this topic, anything you want to add to it, my friend?
No, I'm fine with that. I don't want to get started too much on that disparity.
Yes.
All I can say is it's definitely not fair, and it just goes to show you again the sad state of affairs that has been allowed to take place in this country. And I want to say again to people, even when I brought up, hopefully people can understand when we have all of these persons that are not even Cayman in the media, they're controlling everything pretty much. And you have a situation where you can see where you had a fight when I was in office and you'd bring something like jobs for Caymanians only. Well, nobody wants that one.
Yes.
We're having too much fun here. But either way, I'll reserve my comments another day. It's Friday. I'm in a relaxed mood.
All right. Well, since we're on the numbers topic, let's pick a different number, this one to deal with government expenditure. Of course, last week we talked, and this week we've been talking about the $26 million deficit that the current administration will end their term in, handing the next incoming government, landing them in a hole, really, financially. Welcome to government.
Look at
you say you're here to help us out of this hole.
Look at your face.
Very expressive.
I haven't got it yet. It's something. It's something like next. Landing them in the hole.
In the hole. I'll have to go back and watch myself so I can share in the humor.
Yeah, watch yourself. It's
so
funny.
Cabinet approves $7.7 million in extra funding for the police. This was approved by the current government at the last meeting of Cabinet before the general election, which would have been, I believe, the 20th of March. Under the 2024-2025 budget, the police budget was set at $59.5 million for 2025. This additional $7.7 million in extra funding represents an increase of just under 13%. Included in that $7.7 million was $1.1 million for crime prevention and protection services, $453,000 for crime investigation and criminal justice services, $342,000 for policy advice, administrative and support services, a further $3.3 million for crime prevention and protection services. This is supplementary funding specifically for the Office of the Commissioner of Police, crime and investigation of 1.3, and further policy advice and administrative support of 1.2 million, taking us to a nice lofty figure of $7.7 million going to our security services, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. So there you go. crime and prevention ain't cheap.
You know, all I'm going to say is we had Miss Romelia here talking a little bit the other day about the police.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of my peeves, right? Because, and I'm not here to knock the police officers. There's some very good ones. I'll put the caveat on. I even had a brother who was a police officer, other cousins. So I'm very appreciative of what they do. But there's a lot of them that for whatever reason, you know, enforcement seems to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to interrupt our good friend in terms of her interview, but again, I'll recall again where someone's throwing trash. This is an offense. As far as I know, I heard even a fine up to $500.
Mm-hmm. You
throw the trash, the person even admits to it.
Yep.
And you don't even so much as write them up, you know, take them downtown, charge them $10, $25, just some little thing that would hopefully be a little bit of a discouragement for the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand that. Like, it's not what police officers are supposed to be doing.
You would think.
Now, traffic seems to be working, apparently. You can't go anywhere without getting a ticket. The traffic works, I think. I think that section is working.
Well, you see, you would think so, but then I go back to the number of lives lost on Shamrock Street or Shamrock Road, the Spot Street.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard. I was on my way to East End early one morning, and that's when some car had crashed into this was a good while ago now, had crashed into a garbage truck.
Okay.
Now, it's a little bit difficult. You know, you have to almost be preemptive to say, I feel a car is going to crash here in a moment.
Right.
You have some idiot just come flying and then, they crash and kill themselves or, God forbid, worse, kill somebody else. But on the traffic thing where I would give a slack on that one is, again, I have seen so many times you see people walking on the wrong side of the road and they haven't quite figured out what a sidewalk is yet.
Mm-hmm.
Again, or they're dark, standing in the dark, wearing dark. I just think that a police officer should pull somebody over.
Yeah.
Say, excuse me, come here. Come here for a moment.
Yes.
Do you realize it's dark here?
Yes. Are you nuts?
Don't you see that you're dark?
Yeah.
Do you see that you're wearing dark? You're asking to be knocked down.
You are. Quite right.
And I'm going to give you a ticket.
Yes.
It has to be a $25 ticket because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're standing. You are an idiot.
Fine.
Yeah. I think police, because when I was younger, it was the case of, wear something bright when you walk at night. You hear the little rhyme? Wear something bright when you. and then, of course, you always talk.
What's in your hot chocolate today?
Hey, listen, man. It's all good stuff. That's what I say. Shh, keep it down. Keep it down.
Look at blood. We can't come through the phone right now, see it? But don't worry, I'm there with you, see it?
So, and you were told to walk facing the traffic,
Yeah.
But I don't know, all these rules seem to went out the door. This is serious business, Austin. And we make very light about the little things, right?
Yeah.
But you got to understand, you know how a house is built? One little brick at a time.
I was going to say, yes.
Right?
Something called a hammer, I think, is used there, but,
Yeah.
I don't know what.
And you know how you can destroy a house one little brick at a time? So at the end of the day, we have these rules for a reason, and I would like to believe that the function, the role, the objective, the goal, the desire, the aim of the police officer is supposed to be the enforcement of that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's utter slackness when it's not actually happening, So no wonder the litter is piling up all over the road. Every beach, you can't find a spot. Sides of the road. Oh, my goodness. It's terrible. So anyway, as I continue on with my dark chocolate, go ahead, Austin.
Well, just got a wonderful compliment on WhatsApp. It says, Austin and Ellio, bros, this show keeps my wife and I in the settee with popcorn once your show is on. And that's coming from a Caymanian because they use the word settee. Not, everybody knows what a settee is, but we do. And, of course, our settees, when we were younger, came also wrapped in that protective plastic film.
Hey, you remember them days? Hey, yo.
What was that all about?
What was it about? Like, why can't I enjoy the couch? Why does it have to have plastic?
That came with the guest towels in the bathroom that nobody in the house was allowed to touch.
Dishes in the china in the chinaware. It's like, don't touch those.
Yes. If you have those nostalgic memories, then you too, my friend, are Caymanian.
Yeah. Huh. Don't forget the large TV that didn't work.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah, so many wonderful memories.
Yeah. Remember the days, though, by the way, talking about the TV, wasn't it amazing how the world has changed?
Yes.
You know, first of all, initially you probably only had about 3 channels.
Yep.
But you had to get up off your sit-upon.
Oh, yes.
Walk all of it. Click, 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 click. If you tell that to kids today, they'd be like,
what? What are you talking about? Get up?
That's not going to work.
Click, click?
No.
What's that all about? Yeah, no, you don't. You got it too easy.
Yeah.
Also, in our primetime conversation, an article actually has been in the media for a while. We've been meaning to touch it for a while, but always something else gets in the way for a while. On Wednesday, just gone, the Central Planning Authority heard an application made by consultants representing the Cayman Islands Airport Authority to expand the apron at the end of the runway at Owen Roberts International Airport, pushing it into an area of mangrove buffer and woodland. This project is connected to a controversial $42 million redevelopment of the General Aviation Terminal, which caters only to private jets and arguably Cayman's richest visitors and travelers. Airport officials put a range of development proposals to the government and found support for much of that work, which, as I mentioned, includes a runway expansion and a new general aviation terminal at Owen Robert, which appears to have taken priority despite widespread belief that the Cayman Islands Airports Authority should be working to improve the main airport terminals that carry residents and the bulk of Cayman tourists, rather than the facilities used by only the high net worth individuals. Let's stick a pin there just for a second. You know, we have recently been developing a number of high net worth, would you be considered luxury hotels? We've got the Kimpton, we've got the Indigo, we've got the Ritz. When you look at the concessions being granted on 7 Mile Beach, you've got the Watermark and a handful of others along that strip, all catering to the high net worth individual. We go goo goo gaga every time we hear a report that, oh, look, Michael Jordan's 70-foot fishing vessel is in Cayman waters. Yes, that's great. We want them to choose the Cayman Islands as their destination of choice. So newsflash, those same people that are spending that kind of money, they don't fly commercial. So why not, again, improve the gateway in terms of how you receive passengers? And I don't want it to get carried away and diverted down another topic. But again, when you look at the overall tourism umbrella, we will invest heavily in improving how we receive our air arrivals. Shouldn't we also be doing the same thing on the cruise side? Just the thought, not going down that road, just saying it, just putting it out there. The external work of this expansion project is expected to cost about $1.2 million, but probably will experience overruns. Now, here is the interesting thing. There were a raft back in October of last year when this article first came out, and the Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, announced these proposed changes. There were a laundry list of environmental concerns. And just go through them. In its review of the runway expansion, the DOE, Department of Environment, warned of the environmental threats that could be posed by the project. They list them. The utilization of larger planes and the potential increase in the volume of flights comes with the risk of impact to air quality, primarily due to emissions. Major pollutants released by aircraft engines could include nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds. Larger planes typically have more powerful engines and require engines to operate at higher power levels, both during takeoff and landing. Residents around Oriya would be affected by noise and vibration during the construction operation of the airport, which also has the potential to cause structural damage to some of the surrounding homes and businesses. Construction will also involve dredging, ironically enough.
Not that bad
filling,
word, dredging.
Earthwork, and grading, all dependent on heavy equipment, which will cause disturbances for nearby residents. The DOE warned that if air traffic increases in size and quantity, this could, over time, lead to various health concerns, excuse me, such as annoyance. I didn't know annoyance was a health concern, self-disturbance, and stress to residents living nearby. And pushing the runway, lastly, into the North Sound will curtail any recreational water activity in the area for residents. The mangrove buffer will be lost not only by changing the natural aesthetics of the coastline and altering water views, but also by increasing the vulnerability of a large number of nearby residential properties to flooding and storm surges. Now, we say all of that. This came from the DOE in 2024. At the time, the National Conservation Council said, well, quite clearly, we're going to need to have an environmental impact assessment on all of these project areas before we can proceed. Interesting. Why is that interesting? Under the article, which I just read, which appeared either this week or last week, talking about the project going to planning, it just says the National Conservation Council does not require an EIA to be conducted, as the DOE has all the information it needs to inform authorities to the extent of the environmental damage and threats caused by the project. Now, reading that little line there.
When did that last statement come out?
That last statement came out in 2025, so last week.
Okay.
So, again, I asked the question, and it's an assumption here because my colleague reminded me that the courts very recently, whilst we know, first of all, that the National Conservation members, from the chairman, the deputy chairman, and maybe some of the regular members, been changed out, the courts of the Cayman Islands have halted that council's ability to make decisions until the end of a judicial review is completed. But it would appear to me that that board, and this again is an assumption, I don't know it to be a fact, just reading it on the merit of what the article suggests, in October 2024, the National Conservation Council said EIAs are necessary. In February, March, April 2025, the National Conservation Council says, nah, not needed. You guys got all the information. So it suggests to me that somebody somewhere made a decision contrary to what was just a few short months ago last year. And my only question is, was that a decision taken by the new council or the old council, I guess, being shown the light before they were shown the door?
Well, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Would like to know.
Yeah,
it doesn't give a specific month, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
But, Austin, when I heard that checklist, let's just give it a magic number of 10 items. It sounded like two of them out there probably had some genuine role to play. I mean, you got to understand that when we create a government department, this is what I want persons to understand. Just picture you get up and you appoint a new department. And let's just deal with one person, because we just heard that all the expats are, a lot of them making that $250,000.
Oh, yeah.
I really want you to picture you and your wife sitting in your car, driving right now, and I put you in charge of the new environmental department. You have to deal with environmental issues. These are serious issues. And I'm paying you $250,000 a year.
Yep.
Your salary is pretty good. I'll tell you what has to happen. You have to find problems, you see? You have to have problems, because if there's no problems, there's no reason for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're concerned about, what was it? The impact it might have on the building, the noise, the chemicals in the air. And
emissions,
and maybe the fear of flying over people's head. I have no idea. I'll tell you what bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Me standing next to someone 3-4 feet and they're smoking, that bothers me. Having to go home or anywhere and I have to just be breathing in constant fumes from cleaning supplies, that I could understand. But for some strange reason, the planes have never bothered me. I never sat there and felt like I'm just breathing too much stuff here. Am I the only one here? I have never, I've stood by the airport many times.
I grew up in an aviation family, so I kind of like the smell of planes, but that's just me. I'm kind of weird.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I remember, I guess we all probably ran behind too many buses and breathing in the fumes, but really.
We had our minds warped.
Even behind
long time ago.
Even behind the mosquito truck. Like I hear people saying, "Don't breathe these noxious chemicals," and I'm thinking, we used to run behind that white cloud of stuff.
Gotta live a little, man.
You know where your lungs is really trying to fill itself with oxygen?
Yes, we tried it, but we never exhaled. Maybe that's our problem. Yes, indeed. Just once.
I was running behind the truck, but I didn't inhale. But honestly, come on, man. Come on. You know.
Yeah.
It's like I hear some of these complaints that just really doesn't ring through to me. And I am being considerate. I love to take care of the environment, okay?
Yeah.
I love to see it being beautiful, looking beautiful, smelling beautiful. But I don't know what anyone driving in their car, enjoying their happy hour. But I have never stood at the Cricket Oval and said, oh my God, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
These planes are flying so close overhead and I'm smelling all these noxious guys. Just never had it.
Yeah. Well, obviously what surprises me is the disparity between one National Conservation Council decision.
Or it's the same one.
And another one. Again, it could be the same one. Again, maybe they saw the light before they were shown the door. Or the new National Conservation Council made a decision contrary to the court's orders. And, well, again, that also raises questions. But you be the judge. 745-2626 is the number. If this topic is of interest to you, then by all means, share your views. I will say what also jumps off the page at me, and again, we're not going down this road.
No, of
but
course
I'm just going to say it.
Just say it.
You know,
one time and get out of there.
The cruise folks have said there is going to be no dredging. And even in the case of mild dredging, they've always said it would be very, very limited as compared to what the critics are suggesting. But nonetheless, you mentioned just a little bit of dredging, and people lose their minds. We're talking about extending the runway, doing even more dredging, costing potential mangrove buffers, but not a peep, not a single void.
No, they're riding with no
from
vote.
The bushes. They got plenty of rocks, but they don't feel like throwing them. I don't know why. I don't know, but that's just my observation. Maybe I'm wrong. 28 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock is the time. We're going to pause, take a short commercial break, but don't change that dial. Get some butter for that popcorn. There'll be more Straight Talk next.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
Have your engine driving like never before with Pure 93, the highest pure octane fuel in Cayman, and available exclusively at Rubis service stations. Pure 93 protects against engine knock, restores lost power and acceleration, cleans fuel injectors, intake valves, removes engine deposits, improves your fuel economy, and it meets international specification requirements for your car. Fill up with Pure 93 now and keep your engine running like new. Fuel the difference with Pure 93, available exclusively at Rubis.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
At Polar Bear Air Conditioning, we believe in helping you to avoid costly mistakes and replacements. That's why we offer a quarterly maintenance program at a discounted price. You'll receive a 10% discount on all repairs, accessories, and services. Priority front-of-the-line customer status, reminders of your service, and no overtime rate for after-hours calls. Why not save money and avoid hassle with Polar Bear Air Conditioning? Need service now? Book our AC special for just $99. Book the next available technician at polarbear.ky. That's polarbear.ky.
We all work hard to one day buy the house of our dreams. Why wouldn't you protect it? With Saxon, you now have the option to get a home insurance quote online. Avoid the waiting in lines and the traffic. Simply log on to saxon.ky and click to get a quote to get started. At Saxon, we pride ourselves on providing our customers with excellent customer service and convenience. So what are you waiting for? Visit saxon.ky today from the comfort of your home or office to get your quote and protect the things you love. Saxon. Smart Insurance.
It's trivia every Wednesday from 7 o'clock at Sandbar on the Georgetown waterfront. Your chance to win some fantastic prizes in our free-to-enter Trivia Madness. Great offers on beer buckets, margaritas, and a delicious menu served throughout the evening. Grab your pals and get along to Sandbar every Wednesday from 7 o'clock for the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Are we ready?
Yes, Maggie!
Then let's do this. Trivia, Sandbar, 7 o'clock, Wednesday. See you there.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and proudly simulcast live over YouTube, Instagram, and as of today, on our day after our 2-month anniversary of being on the air with you, now streaming live over our own Facebook page with the keyword Straight Talk Radio Show. The phone lines are open at 745-2626, or you can reach out to us using our WhatsApp number by dialing 928-2562 and either leaving us a WhatsApp audio note or the traditional WhatsApp text message. We do have at least 2 audio notes waiting in the wings, but for those of you just tuning in, of course, recapping some of our top discussions this evening, starting with the last first. We were just chatting about the airport expansion plans, what it includes, and some strange things are going with that their project. Number one, questionable comments emanating from the National Conservation Council. In October, it was we need an EIA. In April 2025, it's you got all the information you need. Somebody made a decision. And also, again, a little mild observation, not a single critic from the environmental group saying anything about the dredging works, the loss of mangrove buffer, the increase in flooding risk to residents in the surrounding areas. Just a curiosity. Maybe it's just me.
Just saying.
We also talked about Cabinet increasing on top of the $26 million deficit. They will leave the next administration. They gave the police service an additional $7.7 million as of the last cabinet meeting. And we went through, of course, what that $7 million accounts for, representing an increase in some 13% over the budget figures for 2023-2024. And last but most certainly not least, we examined the newly released survey conducted by Gender Equality Cayman that took a look at the persistent gender disparities in the Cayman Islands workforce, not least of which the salary disparities between those on work permits versus those of us who are calling themselves Caymanian. Going to the WhatsApp voice notes first, and I know my colleague also has received some WhatsApp text messages, which we're going to also read as part of this segment. Let's go to the phone lines.
Hello, Austin and Ellio. Good to be listening to you again. First of all, let me begin by saying you two guys have got a lot of credibility. You are not just good talk show hosts, but you were also in government, so you know something about what takes place in government. Today, I want to ask you a question. What guarantee do you think people in Cayman have that the promises being made today, particularly in relation to immigration and jobs, are going to be implemented by any government which comes in? Because, for example, the whole issue about rollover applying in government, it started actually from the time rollover was introduced about 22 years ago. So what guarantee do you think people have that this will ever be done together with all the other promises? Then the other issue is, if the government that comes in within maybe a few months, they have not implemented particular issues relating to jobs and immigration, what do you think that the people should do? I should be grateful to listen to your views this Friday. I know Friday is a day for light talk, but I think this is...
All right. That message unfortunately got cut off a little short, but we get the gist of those remarks. Certainly I would be, greatly disappointed if, some of the hot topic issues such as immigration reform and those that have been touted on the campaign trail aren't followed up on. But again, we've seen it happen in the past, and in this case, the new government's going to get in. First of all, we assume the process of horse trading will be simple and quick, but from what we're seeing here, we could end up with at least several days of horse trading before a government is formed. We hope that's all it is. But when they get into office, they're going to be dealing with the finances of the country, the deficit numbers, to say the least. We're going to be looking at making some cuts, some clawbacks, as the case may be, to get us out of the red and into the black. And before you know it, the luster, the bravado, the excitement of the election campaign will be forgotten. And so, too, will be some of the issues and promises that have been made. I hope that's not the case. I really don't. But it wouldn't surprise me. What I can say is that you can guarantee that my colleague and I will remember and will be holding those to account for the promises that they previously made. Ellio?
Definitely be doing that. I think it's a very good question coming in by Mrs. Amamba. Just to comment it, I've made this statement many times, and that is, for all of you voters out there, a person who gets elected needs to decide whether they want to stay elected or whether they want to do the right thing. And I know that sounds like a very simple thing to do, but it isn't, at least not to most people. There's another statement that says that leaders must do the right thing and the followers have to do things right. So back to this position, a lot of times a person can know what is the right thing to do, but not have the strength to actually go ahead and do it. And a lot of times in politics, that happens for a reason. And the reason is because you know that if you make this tough decision, people are going to be upset. And in fact, anytime in politics you make a decision, you're going to see that somebody's going to get upset. If you look at the history of politics, look at some of the people that have stayed in office for a very long time. Not going to call any names. If you look at those persons, you would be challenged to now tell me what they did. What exactly did they do? Mm-hmm. I don't really remember what they do. Mm-hmm. But the persons who really went out there and did something, well, they're probably not in office. Yep. And they're not in office because they made a decision. And so I'll give another simplistic example. It seems simplistic or overly simplistic to some, but it is 100% truth. There's three persons sitting at the table. The car has to be painted. One wants it red, one wants it blue, and one wants it green. If you choose any one of those colors, you lose two people in the room.
Oh, I thought you were going to do that story with the accent attached. That's why I was laughing.
No.
I apologize.
No accent today. So if you do that, any one of those colors that you choose, you lose, as we say, 66% of the votes in the room. Mm-hmm. And so the politician would have to sit and say, now, do I want to choose one of these or do I want to get reelected? Because here's what you do if you want to get reelected. You look at the guy with the red that wants it red and you say, wow, red. That's a wonderful color. I think that would really look good. And then you look at the person with blue and you say, blue, I never thought of that. That just hit me out of the corner. But wow, what a great idea. And the guy with the green, you give him a similar comment. And really what you will find is that all three of those people love you or they like you because you appreciated their idea. And as long as you say that and go away and arguably do nothing, they all like you and you get back your seat. Pathetic, right?
Very.
Blame that on the people. So once I say something nice to you, you like me, and I made no decisions, you reelect me. But the moment I look and say, Mr. Blue, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. And I kind of like your idea, but I'm going to go with red, and here's why. And you tell the same thing to Mr. Green, they don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
And all these are simple things, but what am I saying? I am saying to you that if you have a corrupt government, I'm going to inform you. You might want to hear this, but it means you have some corrupt people in your population. Because a politician can't be corrupt without some corrupt people. And in the same way, one of the reasons why these people keep getting elected is because we keep doing the exact same thing. We kill the person that makes decisions. We kill the person that makes tough decisions. We don't appreciate that. We split the room. I don't like that guy. You see what he did? Screwed me over. Where the person that smiles is generally tells us something nice about yourself. How's your mom? How's your dad? Oh, I saw your sister the other day. Tell her I said hi.
Mm-hmm.
We love that person.
Yep.
And so to answer the question, if we want to see something different, we need to reform ourselves. And again, I'm not making friends with that, you see, because I'm actually indirectly somehow telling a group of people that you're wrong. So I'm not making friends, but thank God I'm not running for office.
There's a certain freedom attached.
It's liberating.
It is exceedingly liberating.
But as long as you're going to have people that's going to say you need to get out there and have a couple more drinks and you have to do, our country is not going to advance. You have to be able to be the type of people that's going to sit there and say, let me pick my favorite one. We need Cruz Pears. And it seems like you don't have the backbone to stand up for it.
Yeah.
So sorry, you're not going to get my vote. And then you get in, sorry, I put you in, didn't say any Cruz Pears. You're not going to get my vote. And until we get to that point, you're always going to get the same thing. Now, can human behavior change? It remains to be seen. But I hope that I've answered his question. So really? I think that there are persons that are making promises. Some of them are going to go ahead and try to do it. And most likely what's going to happen, he or she are going to be twisted by their colleagues and the civil servants who also want to keep things the way it is. And then the other person next to you is afraid that you might outshine them in a myriad of different things. And they'll be fighting, trying to drag a chain or push a chain up a hill to make it. And if they do make it, they will probably end up being neutered by the voter. And here's why they're going to be neutered. Because, again, all of the other politicians who are jealous and everything else will come out and say, oh, God, not him.
Not him again.
Not her. And then we just listen to the sus, and then we vote that person out.
Right. And in the meantime, we end up having the same conversations that are 40 years old. Yeah. Traffic, stay-over tours versus cruise tourism, unemployment amongst Caymanians, traffic.
So, again, I'll get on one of my little peeves again. There is an amendment that allows for jobs for Caymanians only. Of course, the Compass wrote immediately a super harsh editorial against that. And let me just run you through it. And trust me, I'm not saying this to talk about myself. I wish I could put it to someone else. You get a big editorial against that in the Compass, but why are we surprised? Why would we be surprised to get a negative feedback from that? If I look in the Compass, and this was back in the day, but it probably hasn't changed. If you look in the Compass, 90% of them are foreigners. Why would they be hooraying jobs for Caymanians only? But we're here reading the garbage. We're here eating the burgers and drinking the milkshakes and wondering why we're getting out of shape. Well, we're reading that nonsense. Oh, apparently the Compass doesn't like it. Oh, that Ellio Solomon guy. Keep an eye on him. He might be kind of radical. Troublemaker, capital T. And so instead of us saying to ourselves, well, what?
I might just add, he's even worse today because he's no longer seeking anybody's vote.
Absolutely. Instead of us saying to ourselves, for example, I don't care about that group up in there, Jesus, there's pure foreigners in there. And so they go against it. And then here's the other thing. Oh, and Caymanians can be silent. You know, it's a case where the only Caymanian that I heard speak on it was one that was at the town hall, and she was telling me that it was a bad idea. And, of course, I'm still waiting to hear why is it a bad idea to be able to make a job for a Caymanian. And when I did the pension, there were a lot of persons that didn't call in. So we need to also be a society, as far as I'm concerned, that's willing to throw a weight behind something. If there's a politician that you're listening to today that's pushing to do something that is beneficial to you, your family, and to the country, come behind them. Pick up the phone. Send a text and say, hey, I'm behind you. This is a great idea. You can even do it anonymously now, right? Because after all, you're not going to read the name of the person. So there's a lot of different things that we have to reform in ourselves if we want to see a change up inside of there. But as long as you're going to keep re-electing people that tell you some sweet niceties and do absolutely diddly, well, that's a very good, easy job for them. Very good, easy job for them. I'll pause there.
Let that be a lesson to you, callers. When you call in, say, I want your opinion, fellas. You're going to get it.
Careful what you ask for.
Careful what you ask for.
But, I want to comment, Austin, really quickly.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I want to comment.
Again.
Yeah, I want to comment again on when you brought up the issue about these wealthy people coming here.
But can you stick a pin? We got a call on the line. Let's see if we can go there
Stick 2
first.
pins.
Good evening, caller. You're on the air. Didn't stick around long enough.
Don't blame it.
Go ahead.
So, what is it with this wealthy thing? What is it that possesses the world that all we seem to be able to focus in is on money? I mean, we need money to pay bills, but let me just show you something. You can have a guy or a girl that builds a Lamborghini, for example.
A blue, green, or red one?
Doesn't matter.
All right.
That builds, no, I'm serious here.
I know you
That goes out, builds a Lamborghini, and do we sit back and go, oh my God, I got to meet this person. They're a genius. I mean, how did you do this? We're not concerned. You know what we're concerned about?
What?
The man or the woman that can buy it for $2 million.
Okay.
So let me see if I get this right. This guy doesn't know diddly squid. Couldn't figure out what 3 + 3 is if he was in the dark. But he has $2 million to buy a Lamborghini, and we love that guy, but have no idea, no care, no attention for the guy who can actually build the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're a twisted world.
They are.
Okay? I'm almost at the point of saying it's pretty sick. We got a sick mentality. I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is real value. That is not real value.
Yeah.
And if we wonder why we can't buy a piece of land, well, it's probably again because we're looking at too many wealthy people, because wealthy people are going to come in and say, I want that. How much is it worth? 25. I'll give you 75 for it. And then you wonder why your land just went out of your range.
Yes.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
I'm all about working hard, making money. I like capitalism. It's good. It's good. But some guy made that car. It's totally. I sat the other day just watching a simple video with a guy making a ring.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting and saying, my God, the talent.
Yeah. Deeply satisfying.
No, we're not interested in that. We're interested in the person who can buy the ring.
Yes.
Anyway, just my little rant for a couple of minutes. Go ahead, Mr.
For a couple
Huston.
of minutes. No
It's
problem.
your turn.
No problem. No, not my turn. The audience's turn. Let's go to the second voice note.
Good afternoon, Austin and Ellio.
Good afternoon.
I love watching your show. Thank you very much for being so informative and sharing so much with us each and every day.
You're welcome.
I heard that perhaps should there be a little dredging that happens and occurs, which I believe that all indicators are there will be some dredging, that the dredging that takes place can be very useful to us because we, as you know, have lost a lot of sand on 7 Mile Beach, and that this sand can be refined or cleaned and utilized for sand on our own island, which would be obviously great because it's coming from our soil. Was just wondering if you could give me or shed a little light on that, because we are obviously very concerned about our 7 Mile Beach. And wouldn't this be wonderful if we're building a pier and we have to dredge and we can use that for our sand instead of importing sand that really is not indigenous to our land and perhaps even hurt our sand on 7 Mile Beach if we had to import it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for those comments and, of course, the question. Ellio, want to take a stab at this?
Gee, I knew you would pick on me. You see,
I just figured you want to express
No. What I want the listening audience to know, my colleague was just a couple of minutes ago hinting, you want to talk again, Ellio?
Again?
What, Ellio? Are you trying to say something again?
But notice, when I invite him again, he's not saying no, he doesn't want to talk. He's just delaying the inevitable.
He throws this at me because it's cruise. No, but first of all, let's understand.
Maybe I did do that.
You did. It's good. But it's fine. You're always throwing me under the bus.
Oh, stop now.
But we're
What is it you tell the elected candidates who come in studios? Please note, I did not take us there. So, you're never alone, buddy. I always have your back.
Yeah, well, you're taking us there today, buddy.
I am taking us there today.
There's a couple of things you need to know. Do you know that the so-called polysyllables, right? These
Polysyllables?
These words that are 2 syllables or more.
Oh, yes.
This supposedly is the norm in English, you see, coming from the French, supposedly, they say. And then Anglo-Saxon are these little short.
Should I stop you there and tell you got a caller on the line?
Go ahead, take the call.
I'm sorry. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen. I just wanted to call in. I heard some comments earlier that you were saying that the cruise lines had suggested that no dredging would be required if a cruise port was built. But I would just like to, and looking at Georgetown Harbor, the information that we do have from 2019 and 2015 to 2019 is that at least 20 acres of seabed would need to be dredged in Georgetown Harbor. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping, known data accurate. And also, I did hear from Mr. Israel that the ACT brought down, I think last week, he suggested that from his experience, that there would be no environmental damage if a cruise port was built. However, again, I just want to remind you and remind your listeners that we do have the Baird report, which was the environmental impact assessment done by the government, led by independent consultants, and that made very clear what the environmental cost of building a cruise berthing facility was. And so it's very inaccurate to say that there's no environmental impact or no dredging required.
Can you read for us where it says that 20 acres is going to have to be dredged?
That was in the revised 2019 Virgin Island proposal. I'm in my car now, so I don't have my computer and what have you in front of me, but that was in the 2019 Virgin Isle. That was the reduced dredge pit. The original dredge pit from the Baird report from the 2015 design was 30 acres. And within that, in the revised, that included 12 acres of coral. So
okay.
I would encourage you to go back and
No,
and look at those reports.
I don't think you even have to go back, and I can share with you why while you sit in your car comfortably. The piers are supposed to be approximately 1,700 feet long. If I multiply that by 75 to get the square footage, that's 1,200. That's 127,500 square feet. Now let's multiply that by 2 for 2 piers.
Mm-hmm.
That's 255,000 square feet. Now, how much is an acre? Want to go with 44,000 square feet? Divide by 44,000. That would give you 5.79 acres. Hold on. And that's if you have, so let's be clear. So I'll let you talk.
Sure.
If you have 2 pairs at 1,700 by 75 feet, you're gonna clear if you have to dredge. And understand that when you put down pylons, you don't have to dredge. But if you had to, it would be 5.79. You're saying 20 acres, 4 times that amount, or arguably 36 times that amount. What exactly would they be dredging for?
If I can just interject for a moment, I also remember the Virgin Isle project, and that included proposals for cargo and cruise, and it was the cargo side of the development that threatened the most coral, specifically Hamburger Reef and some of the other sites that were of concern, but not necessarily the cruise berthing terminal piers, because they would be considered deep water piers, and as my colleague mentioned, built on pilings and therefore not requiring the dredging that has been, stipulated and otherwise purported.
Well, I believe that, I'm not really sure the exact percentage that the cargo required versus the piers, but certainly the cruise piers were a significant part of the requirement. And I'm just, this is Virgin Isle Group, this is Royal Caribbean, Carnival Cruise Line, McAlpine, the Cayman Islands government who issued all of this information, and I'm pretty sure that if they could have done it with a smaller dredge pit, they would have put that forward at the time. But the reduction to 20-acre dredge pit was the best that they could come up with requiring 2 cruise pairs. Plus, yes, there was a cargo element to it, but that was relatively small in comparison to the footprint of the piers.
Well,
I'm only just encouraging you and the public to look back on the Baird report and also the Burden Isle proposal to see what was required, the dredge pit, and certainly there is at least 20 acres of dredging that would be required if berthing was put in Georgetown Harbor.
I appreciate your call. I think I recognize the voice, but I won't call it because you didn't identify yourself. But let me just say this. We have invited CPR, that being ACT, has invited CPR, Sustainable Cayman, and any group, and I think you're at least involved with one of them, to sit down and to be able to have proper dialogue so that the public could hear the complaints and hear a response real time. And until now, no one has taken us up on that. And you call the program about 20 or 30 acres of dredging. What I would at minimum encourage you to do is when you get that you're not in your car and you get that report, maybe you can call and then we could discuss it at that point. Or encourage your
I'd be happy to post the link on your in the comments on your. Yeah, I will send it across when I'm at my computer. But thanks for taking my call, and I'll share that information with you later.
Okay, outstanding. We do appreciate it, and yes, she did have a familiar voice, but we are grateful again to highlight the fact that open, transparent,
that's what we should be having.
Is exactly what we encourage. And whether you want to call the program or you want to attend a much larger public meeting, it's got to start somewhere. So I'm grateful for the caller and any caller who wants to call and debate these on the issues that obtain. It is, however, 58 minutes past the hour of, 6 o'clock? And we do need to pause, check in with the BBC News. But there'll be more Straight Talk, something tells me, on the way.
Yeah,
and we're going to be talking cruise when we come back. So keep it locked to right here to Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo.
The BBC is the world's most trusted news source.
And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to talk shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman.
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker.
This is Bobo 103.1.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here. More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. A U.S. immigration judge has ruled that a student who led pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University in New York last year can be deported. Mahmoud Khalil, who's of Palestinian descent and has permanent residency status in the U.S., was detained more than a month ago. The Trump administration claimed his activism was anti-Semitic, something he denies. Will Creeley, the legal director of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, told the BBC the ruling was troubling.
We're getting to a situation where you may not be able to speak your mind, where speech is supposed to be freest on our nation's college campuses. If you're engaged in activism that the government doesn't like, peaceful protest, classically protected by the First Amendment, and you may have now a hard time finding a lawyer to represent you, lest their firm come under pressure from the federal government.
The Israeli army says it's killed 2 Palestinian gunmen during an exchange of fire in the southern part of Gaza. The clash could mark a return to face-to-face fighting after Israel ended the ceasefire with Hamas almost a month ago. The White House has insisted that President Trump's tariffs will make the United States richer, despite the falling value of the US dollar. The currency dropped to a 3-year low against the euro on Friday. It's after China further raised duties on US goods in retaliation against a series of tariff increases by President Trump. More on what this means for China from Stephen McDonnell in Beijing.
Before Donald Trump's tariffs were imposed, it was exporting over $430 billion worth of goods into the US each year, a huge volume. But this only accounted for around 2% of the country's GDP, and only 15% of China's global exports ended up in America. So it can absorb the hit from Washington where others can't, giving Beijing room to push back. And at street level in China, this is all about price. If the cost of incoming American goods becomes too expensive, people will simply switch to local brands.
The US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has held talks with President Putin in St. Petersburg about a resolution to Russia's war in Ukraine. Earlier, a meeting of Ukraine's allies pledged another $24 billion in military aid for Kyiv. Here's Jonathan Beale.
There is no sign that President Putin wants to end this war, and therefore the need for strengthening Ukraine's military is still there. Now, it was important, this meeting, in that it was chaired by the UK and Germany. And the reason for that, of course, is because the US, which set up this contact group to provide weapons to Ukraine, has essentially taken a back seat.
BBC News. Reports from Western Sudan say dozens of people have been killed during an attack by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces on the city of El Fasher and a nearby camp. A volunteer aid group said the RSF used heavy artillery and drones, leaving more than 30 people dead in the city. It's the only state capital in Darfur still controlled by Sudan's army. The UN's humanitarian agency OCHA has announced it will lose more than 2,000 staff in what it called a wave of brutal cuts. The organisation is facing a funding gap of almost $60 million and says it will have to reduce its presence in countries including Nigeria, Pakistan and Iraq. The Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was promised an immediate delivery of water to Texas to make up for a shortfall owed under a long-standing treaty. Mexico's failure to keep up with its water deliveries has sparked a diplomatic row with the United States. On Thursday, Donald Trump threatened additional tariffs and even sanctions in response to what he said was Mexico's theft of water from Texan farmers. President Sheinbaum said they were looking for ways to comply with the treaty.
What has happened is that there is less water in the Rio Bravo, mainly because we have had almost 4 years of drought. So we are looking for other alternatives to be able to technically comply with the treaty. I mention this because President Trump may not have been aware of it. There have already been working groups, and a proposal was sent out 2 days ago on how much water Mexico can supply.
The state-owned Spanish broadcaster has called for a debate over Israel's participation in this year's Eurovision Song Contest because of concerns expressed by some Spanish organisations over the war in Gaza. RTVE has sent a letter to the European Broadcasting Union requesting a discussion on the participation of Israel's public broadcaster.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, amen, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 and simulcast live over YouTube, Instagram, and now today over Facebook. The phone lines are open, 745-2626, or you reach out to us via our WhatsApp number at 928-2562. And from there, you can either send us a WhatsApp voice note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. Prior to the break, obviously, engaging with at least one person of the opposite side on the whole cruise birthing discussion. I know we had a caller who was trying to get through prior to the break. If you got your ears on, now is a good opportunity. There they are, like clockwork. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening. I wanted to be able to, express to people, because, when I was diving, I had a dive company at Captain Brand's old bar and restaurant that's now Casanova. In 1984, when Rhapsody ran aground, we had an emergency looking for a man who had went diving off of Northwest Point. They were asking for volunteers, and I couldn't get my staff to go because everybody wanted to go home. They're young, And so Adrian Briggs called me up, and he said, "Listen, are you going to look for that man?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I can't get nobody to go." He said, "I'm having the same problem." He said, "I'll come and pick you up off the dock." I said, "Sure, no problem." He came, picked me up the dock, and I put all my gear on board, and we were on our way out, heading from, that area out straight to Northwest Point. And we noticed that when Rhapsody was aground, they had a dredge boat. People don't know it because 1984, a lot of the people that are thinking they know about the dredging, they have no idea, right? And so they were dredging half of the length of that ship there, a little bit where the old Gamma shipwreck was at, where the new Hyatt is being built, a little bit further north on that, and you'll find a big, huge hole in the ground. Because remember now, a ship is holding about 26 feet of draft, so you're digging 26 feet down minimum to get into that. And then you have to slip the ship, which they had Smith Rotterdam, which came, from Holland, from Amsterdam, and they were pulling the ship with, a big barge with 24 anchors weighing 6 to 12 tons, and they threw that over the side of the barge while 3 tugboats were twisting it to go in. That was a small ship. And so all of that area is still dug out, and you still got Sandy Beach. I mean, from 1984, there was still Sandy Beach on that area. So that I've always argued the point that that's never going to happen. I was able to jump into the water because Adrian had a camera, and I took the picture that became the front page, because what had happened is they had $1 million bond with the government in case the dredge boat made a mistake, and they made a mistake. And they dropped the marl instead of going over the wall, on top of the wall. So I had enough bottom time. I dropped down. I took his camera, took the picture. And the bottom was 70 feet, and you had this big pile of marl going up to just 30 feet from the surface. All of that marl, silt, sand, the grinder, the dredge boat cutter is grinding that all into sand, dust, and, the silt, right? So when the next, Northwester came in, that blew that all over Georgetown, right? We still got sand on the beach. You still got sand into those areas that we're talking about today. Now, I want to remind people that they didn't know that, because 1984, they wouldn't have been, in most cases, they wouldn't have been born yet. So that's what I'm talking about, because my son was born in 1983. He's 41 now, I have 6 children, so, the older children were 50 years of age. They seen it. They know about it. But the younger children, they didn't know anything about that. They never saw that, right? I got paid $1,000 from the captain of that ship to go down underneath with a group of people that actually started the snorkeling business in Grand Cayman with Don Foster's dive company. Okay, that's why he bought them big boats and stuff like that. But I want to go back to even further back into the 70s when Mr. Berkeley Bush, ex-co member and in charge of the port when he made the first cargo dock. We have, pictures of them blowing up the reef that was right next door to the cargo dock, which is next door to Eden Rocks Reef there, where they had that 330-foot cargo ship that ran aground one night. But they blew that up, and there's still sand there. And, I mean, back in the 70s, 77, 78, around that time, is when they were building that dock. And nothing happened to the sand. Nothing happened to the reef. The coral reef, as according to Courtney Platt, is still beautiful. Nothing happened. So even with that, we're still not talking about when Carnival, which was at the port Anchorage, which was their site number one, where Zenith had ran, their anchor. They made a mistake of using that, but the coral will grow back. I mean, but still, he dropped the anchor and then he destroyed all that reef, and we sent videos, we showed videos, but none of these people that are on the other side are even talking about that. And then they're talking, because I was listening, I think it was Shirley, she was on Charles Glidden's Radio Came Out, I think is what was running that, and she was going, well, yeah, we know that, the reef has, been destroyed over there, and, there's nothing we can do about it, but the sand is still there all over the entire Georgetown reef, and there's nothing happening, and you're talking about a reef that's been destroyed since 1937 all the way to today, where you're starting from, like, if you were off Eden Rock, where that old bar and restaurant that hasn't been repaired, I don't know what happened to it, and it goes all the way to the north,
Paradise,
where the Hyatt brand new building. So that entire reef, which is, I don't know, third of a mile of reef, has been destroyed, and you still got sand on 7 Mile Beach, and you still got coral. It's sent, Soto Central, which they now call Cheeseburger Reef, or Soto's Reef South. All those reefs, Cali Shipwreck, Balboa Shipwreck. But Balboa is being destroyed on a constant basis every time you have a storm. Every time you have a northwester, that really, really bad northwester destroyed the air pocket that I've done over 1,000 night dives. I've done 11,000 dives in Grand Cayman, just on the west side, to the north wall where Stingray City is at, on the outside of that, and all the way back in the South Sound area, going all the way to Pedro Castle, Pedro St. James now, right? But all of that, I've saw it. And I can tell you that, I've even worked on a dredge boat, a drag line, bulldozers, dump trucks, building Prospect Park, Omega Bay Properties, Harbor House Marina. We cut that area there, So all of that has not destroyed any of the reef, none of the canal front lots, because the sand keeps coming into those canal front lots, and there's life there. Anybody can take a dive mask, snorkel and fins, jump into any canal, anywhere in the North Sound, and you'll see there's life there. There's conchs, there's lobsters, there's crabs, there's fish, there's turtle grass, there's Cassiopeia. There's still life there. Starfish, all of that is still there. And we have had over 700 shipwrecks in the Cayman Islands. Most of them are all wooden ships, so you're not going to see them. But I'll never forget Art McKee's son, Kevin, who actually was in the treasure hunting that brought in $400 million from Mel Fisher, Nuestra Señora de la Tosha, where they got all of this stuff at. And he was a very, very, meticulous person that could take one of those little treasure, finders that, you go, they make that little sound when you hit gold, silver, or, anything unusual. And he found 13 shipwrecks just in Hogside Bay, the same place they want to build a cargo dock. And whether they want a cruise ship dock or not, we still need a cargo dock. Because where this cost of living is coming from, gentlemen, is because that since 28 years ago, I was renting my old house to the vice president of All Bank and Trust, and he didn't want no furniture, so we took all the furniture out, and then he repainted the entire inside of the house. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, oh, I have some furniture coming from Indonesia, teak furniture. You get them on the factory, you can pick whatever table, what kind of legs, whatever you want. I said, yeah, well, that's going to be a very expensive cost. I mean, how are you shipping it? Oh, 40-foot containers. Well, how much money are you paying to move a 40-foot container from Indonesia to Miami? So $1,000 US. I go, wow, that's cheap. I said, well, how much is the cost from Miami to Grand Cayman? $3,000. And I thought, and I spoke to, sea captains, I spoke to the Port Authority, and I'm going, why is the cost so expensive for stuff to come from Miami to Grand Cayman, which is what we're really dealing with, is the cost of living here in Cayman, right? And they told me very, discreetly and as best as they could try, they said, Dave, we don't have a cargo dock because we can hold a big ship. Because of all the environmentalists going like, no, we're going to destroy the reef. Well, why we haven't destroyed the reef in all this time that we've been talking? With all of this destruction that's over there on the drop-off, or, you blew up the Balboa. They had so much dynamite in the Balboa that it blew off the bow, the stern, and turned the middle section of the ship upside down, and then flung the engine down, another 150 feet away from it. I mean, we have to stop this nonsense and understand the history of what we're dealing with. Our history, our culture. Our menfolk, our grandfathers, uncles, cousins, brothers went to sea. We built schooners from 1850 to 1950. This was our culture and this is our history. That's why the flag, our motto, he hath founded it upon the sea. We are always the sea people. People love to go fishing. They like to go diving. They get conchs. I mean, this is where we're at, and we're still getting all those things. But, of course, population is growing, and so more people are getting it. And the continental shelf, the drop-off is quite close in some areas. In some other areas, they still, have fish, even though people are still fishing. I mean, I'd love to send you a picture, but I can't, of the amount of fish that we caught on Tuesday right off the Spots dock. I mean, it was amazing. I got fish for a month.
Nice.
So I just wanted to leave that with you to let them, understand there's a history here. This is not just only about the environment. It's the history, our culture, and then at the end of the day, the cost of living. The cargo dock has to be built. Whether they don't want the cruise ship dock or not, the cargo dock has to be built, and it's going to be next door to Eden Rock. We have to make a choice. Do you want to save some money? Do you want to charge, less money for groceries and whatever else, utility bills and stuff like that? Your medical bill and have that money? Then we need a new cargo dock. And we're also going to need a bigger dock in Cayman Brac, too. I mean, they're paying $36 for a chicken.
Yeah. That's
a whole chicken. $15 for a dozen eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, we have to make some difficult decisions. We're not going to be able to eat eggs or chicken without somebody killing the chicken or getting the egg and breaking it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll leave you with that.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for that not so brief but very thorough history lesson and to the point.
It was good.
It was very good. A lot of work has happened in Hogstye Bay over the years, and again, it is still gorgeous. So at some point in time, one has to ask the question, is all of this fear-mongering necessary?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where it comes from, but deliberate or otherwise, and I say that because maybe there's some, I was getting on to the point because there was a person who sent in the voice message, right? Yep. And again, I'm saying these polysyllables, and here's the point I was trying to make with that is it's a recorded fact that people will draw in negative. It becomes a negative, the polysyllables, once you throw it out in the masses. So, prerogative, my prerogative, everything takes on a somewhat negative connotation. I say that to link back to dredging. You see, you've been programming your mind that the moment you hear dredging, I don't know, it sounds dreadful. But let's oversimplify it just to make a point. If you go in the water right now and you just take in your hands and you start removing the sand, well, technically you're dredging it. All right? It's an oversimplification, but that is very, very important. And the caller talks about, well, is it a case that if the sand is there, you dredge it up, can it be used along the 7 Mile Beach? I would like to believe that the sand that I've seen in the videos taken out there in Hogstye Bay very much similarly matches what is along 7 Mile Beach. It might be a little bit coarser if you're looking at what you find, for example, even on Smith Cove. It tends to be a little bit thicker. I haven't actually went diving out in Hogstye Bay and actually look at the thickness of it, but somewhere I would imagine between the thickness of what is at Smith Cove and 7 Mile Beach, there has to be some great similarity. So without some expert view, my unprofessional view would be that it would probably very much be able to be used as somewhat a bit of a replenishment. That would be my response to the author of the text that came in a while ago. All right, Mr. Harris, 6:20 here up in the studio. Is it raining outside? Someone should tell me if it's raining outside. It feels like it's raining.
It feels like it because we got colder in here, but I went and took a look during the 6 o'clock break, and it didn't appear to be raining. But it is still overcast skies. Well, no rain yet.
But I do want to, again, encourage the lady who called in, get those information, send it to us so we can happily discuss it. and still looking forward to sustainable Cayman CPR, not necessarily hiding behind the rocks, but having a good public discussion where we can get the answers on a real-time basis and the public can sit there and get the facts. Yeah. Because there is, unfortunately, a lot of fear-mongering and a tremendous amount of emotions going around in this particular issue. I have people that the moment you're trying to correct them, Mr. Harris, it's like, you want to fight or what? I'm like, are you serious? I don't think you want to go there. No. But either way, it's a pretty sad scenario. 3rd of April, 2025 can't come quick enough. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can get I'm still looking forward to a yes vote. I'm confident it's going to be a yes vote. I'm confident.
Yeah.
Say it as it is.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, Mr. Harris?
No, I'm looking at our Straight Talk page where the caller, she first left a message saying that the phone lines aren't working. They were working just fine.
I got a text. It's drizzling now, Ellio.
I didn't have a chance to get to it, but you kept trying, and I'm glad you did, because obviously we had the opportunity to chat with you. But I was also just checking to see if the information regarding the Baird report that you requested had been submitted, and it has not. Certainly,
still driving.
That's fine. But certainly, she did state that she would share it with the Straight Talk Facebook page. And again, as soon as we have it, obviously it'll be in the public domain. Some persons on WhatsApp were saying, "Well, be sure to share it with us." I said, "No problem. We'll share everything, because that's what we want. We want dialogue. We want constructive conversation." Speaking of which, we have a caller on the line. Let's take that call. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, hold on. Let me just kill this radio I have in the back. Sorry about that.
No problem. Fabulous idea, but great to hear from you.
Yes. Evening, Ellio. Evening, Austin.
Hey, I got to say, you crossed my mind a couple of days ago. I said, what happened to Dominic? Is he on vacation or something?
Gee, I wish it was. I just love to work, apparently. That's a bad habit. A rewarding one.
Don't leave us like this unless you update us. We missed you.
Sure. Yeah, sure. It definitely raining, sprinkling down here on the 7 Mile side of things. I think I got the video still on here. Sorry about that, gentlemen. Let me just stop the whole.
You sound fine. There's no feedback on our end, so far.
Okay, good. That's good. Certainly. Well, gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be on the air for the last few minutes. But just wanted to, echo to the people out there about the cruise terminal that, a yes vote down the line will be definitely something. When you look back on it, you will be glad of the choice they made. Hopefully those want to be MPs or those that want to be re-elected will be able to, those that are going to be saying yes to it, can obviously declare where they would like for it to be as well, too, so that they can give the voters a little idea of what they're thinking when they do get into Parliament to say, hey, if I had to vote, support this thing, this is where it's going to be, et cetera. Because, like you said, if you got that yes vote come the 30th of this month, obviously it's going to be something that, we want to see our MPs hit the ground running with the idea, and not just packing it on the shelf like every other bill and letting it collect dust. It is something that if you're in the tourism industry, a lot of people believe right now that they're not in the tourism industry, so this doesn't matter to them. But as we look at our financial sector, we see a lot of people have left that industry, whether it be retiring or forced out, and they have had to find place in that tourism sector. So obviously there's more load on it. There'll come a time when we look back and we wish we had spent the money on the dock now, because it's going to cost us much more in the future if we have to build it as well. Because if we had did this thing many years ago, we wouldn't be talking about this now. We would have had a proper port. And, a proper port will obviously...
But 8 years ago, we had the cruise lines paying for it, too, and we wouldn't be talking about all of this.
Exactly.
We're not satisfied unless we pay for it. I just want to point that out. We're not gonna stop until we broke paying for this, but that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, and I remind Caymanians as well, let's look back at the fact when we were thinking about buying that piece of land for $5,000 or $10,000, and when we finally, there was a bank loan you could have went and get, but you said, hey, I could just save up and wait till I can afford this out of my own pocket. Only to find out 10 years later the land is 10 times more expensive. Right. So you should have took out the bank loan, paid a little interest, and you would have been owner of the property, and you had plenty of equity. Yep. At the end of the result. So hopefully, gentlemen, I don't hold up the talk, but just to remind people to think very positive. They just don't think just because somebody else telling you and spreading false fear. I mean, we saw that the white paper that just came out talked about government overspending, going into a deficit and all that stuff. Just to end off on that, that's another scaremongering right there. I mean, it's obviously good to highlight it from the financial standpoint so we can see where we're going. But, they need to make it clear that we still have that money in our bank account. It's not spent yet. That is the projected spending that is going to put us into the deficit. And those people who will hopefully be elected into power will make the right choice to cut back on some of those things that are not a priority to us to keep us above the deficit. And hopefully the Lord blesses us with more tourism business to keep us in a surplus. Let's put it that way. Hopefully before we have the call on that budget, we got extra money from tourism to show that that product as well as, is contributing to our economy for sure.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yes. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you for the time. I'll give you time to talk back on that and have a safe and a wonderful weekend. And I want to shy away from much longer. God willing, one day again.
Keep calling. We missed you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Miss you guys too, but keep safe as well, gentlemen.
All right,
man. You do the same. Thank you very much for your call and your contribution. 2 minutes, 15 seconds left.
Yeah, I want to just say, on this whole dredging issue, again, people keep using the dredging thing, again, as a big fear-mongering thing. But Giora Israel, an expert that we brought down here, talked about the construction of the pier. Understand that the overwhelming majority of this pier will be built on pylons. There's absolutely no reason to be dredging all of this area going out there in the ocean. These pylons are big, huge metal cylinders like straws that they use the equipment and just keep driving them into the ground slowly until they hit bedrock and in a firm position. They have them, I understand, as long as 90-something feet. Special steel made at least, either he said only one place in the world, or at least he said only one place in America. But definitely it's not as pilot dredging. And when I'm hearing this number of 20 acres, 30 acres, again, do the math. These piers are somewhere around 1,700 and something feet long. I don't think they're anything wider than 75 feet. Do the math. If you add it all up and you had to dredge the entire area, which you don't because you have pylons, but if you did, it doesn't come up to any more than 5.79. So let's just say you're totally wrong by 100%. Okay, make it 10. But it still isn't 20 and still isn't 30. But I can assure you, not even 5 acres is going to have to be dredged out there because it's all on pylons. Just a pile of nonsense. Well, that rhymes, pylons and pylons.
Well, we are grateful for all of the callers, whether we agree or we don't agree. We're grateful for your commentary, and certainly we encourage the dialogue. At 30 seconds remaining, a reminder, on Monday, we will be covering this territory again. We'll be seeking with our guests, the Ebanks twins, Pastor Alison Ebanks and Mario Ebanks Squared, will be in studios to tackle the 3 referendum questions. 3 questions, 1 conversation. It all takes place only right here on Straight Talk. Have a great weekend, K-Man, and be sure to tune in each and every weekday for Straight Talk.
The home of the BBC World